Hi, and welcome to the Thousand Amp Podcast. I'm Matt Shell, and on this show, we talk about indie game development, indie game business, indie game marketing, and many topics surrounding. I'm joined today by the excellent Chris Zukowski from howtomarketagame.com. Thanks for being with us today, Chris.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a really great time. Thanks for having me. I really am excited to talk about indie games and how to make them sell.
Awesome. So one of the things that I've been curious about in kind of following you and following some of the content that you've been publishing. So for people who are maybe not familiar, you publish great content on your website, on your blog, and then you've also got multiple GDC talks, at least two.
Yeah.
More.
So my deal is that I kind of became I made my own games, and I worked in corporate America for a while, learning how to make a product. I was in UX, product, a little bit of marketing, and I just kind of learned, the industry standards there. And then I made some games, and they didn't sell very well, and I was like, how does this work? And I studied what indie games and game marketing was doing, and I saw, well, okay, there's a little bit of a gap. Nobody's really explaining how this works. And then I also applied industry standards, for boring stuff like how to sell insurance or, airline tickets, that sort of stuff. So I kind of brought this boring corporate America discipline to, the wild world of indies. And that's kind of my background is, indie games plus corporate, and then just kind of seeing what's working, what's not. And what I do is I just do studies. Like I come in saying like, I think I have some ideas, but I literally have no idea what's going on. So I just start asking questions. And a lot of what my kind of niche is like, I just do little experiments to see what works. Cause I don't think anything. Like I'm like, if you tell me that something doesn't work and I test it and it doesn't work, I'm like, okay, this thing's terrible. And if it does work, I say, yes, this works. I've tested, I've verified it. And so that's kind of what my niche is every week I write a blog where I've done little experiments and then I report back, or somebody told me a story and I went and verified it. And that's sort of where my niche is, to kind of tell these stories of what's happening out there on marketing your games. And then I also do some consulting for other companies that have hired me, like some publishers, some solo indies, that sort of thing.
Awesome. I mean, there's a lot that I want to grab and pull off of there. I think that one of the things that really, in some ways, I have a similar experience for you of having worked in larger companies. I was at Unity for 6 years and doing marketing there. And I do see the gap between the marketing competency which is totally intuitive, right? In those big companies, there's whole specialized functions and teams just on marketing. And then obviously you got 1, 2, 3 person teams of people who are developers or artists, and they're like, marketing what? So there's obviously a huge gap, but it's something that is unavoidable and needed. And I think that's what resonated about some of your content for me, was that it was obviously coming from a data-driven perspective and a kind of a more structured and kind of professional perspective, for lack of a better term. And I found that to be really valuable. I think one of the things that I saw first from you that really resonated with me was the study that you did recording people browsing on Steam, right? And providing kind of analysis on that. I think this is a level of rigor that there's not, well, at least on the indie side. Probably on the big side, there are plenty of people doing this, right? But on the indie side, it's something that we're not seeing that much.
For those folks playing at home, what happened was you always hear these kind of stories from indies where they're like, well, I bet they do this, or you should do this because I bet they do that. And it was kind of this like stories told around the campfire. It was like, well, how do you know that? And they're like, well, it just makes sense. And in my corporate world, I used to be in UX, and anytime some big executive came in, or like some marketing or anybody, like any manager would come in and say like, well, I bet the user does this. It was like, that's a red flag that you need to do what we do in the UX study, which is in the UX world, which is called a user study, where it's like, okay, you might be right, you might be wrong. Let's just do an experiment. And so what I did was I found up to 15 people. I found 15 various times, and just regular ass gamers. I actually filtered out. I was like, do you make games? Do you stream games? Do you do anything that is like part of the industry? And I filtered out anybody who didn't. So I wanted the most like boring ass gamer ass person, like doesn't know anything, just likes to play games. And so I just took those people and I just put them in front of Steam and I said, I'm just going to watch you browse Steam for an hour. Just like I was not there, and just go for it. And I recorded their screen. I paid them for it, for their time. And this was just a classic UX study where we just like, okay, why'd you click that? What were you thinking? Why did you click that? Sort of thing. It's what I was trained in corporate America to do, which is like to study a website, because I would be building a website and we want to make sure that people could like get through it and, book their insurance.
Right.
But on the other side, it was like, here we are, like, how do you buy a game on Steam? And so that was my thing. And I did a GDC talk on it, and I've written a couple articles about it. And where you can actually watch videos where I clipped out videos of people browsing Steam, and you can see like what they key in on and what they interested in, what they just like skip over. And like, it's amazingly how consistent people were when they're browsing Steam. They like skipped over this one section over and over and over again. So that kind of stuff is like what I brought about, and I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think that is really, it's interesting because I was thinking about it more from a marketing perspective, but the UX research perspective, obviously, of doing that kind of in-depth user study makes a lot of sense. And this is what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to understand people's behavior, ideally, so that we can remove, it's like they're getting lost on the website. They don't know what to click. And it's like, no, this is what we want you to click. Like, click the wish list button, click the buy button, right? I mean, this is obviously preaching to the choir a little bit here, but what struck me in watching some of that content is things like the importance of capsule images and just all of these, what I think for many people would be an afterthought or a seemingly insignificant part of the process. But the fact that if that chain is broken at any point, right, if they're like, they go, they hover the capsule image and then they look at the 3 screenshots that come off the capsule hover and they don't take the next step, well, that 2 years that you spent working on your game and perfecting the jump and, making beautiful particles and everything else, well, they didn't even get to the starting screen, because they bounced off the capsule image, so almost thinking about, people, nobody has a problem getting really creative about making beautiful menus and, beautiful tutorials. I mean, tutorials are hard to do and kind of suck to do, right? But like, giving people that entry into the world of a game, well, it's like, maybe we can kind of challenge people to say, hey, the world of your game is actually starts here, right? It starts further out. And if people are bouncing off the capsule, that's it, right? They never get to see the beautiful menus.
Yeah, and that's such a great point. And I think one of the things that I find a couple parts with that is a lot of people make their Steam page because they have to. They're like, oh crap, our game goes on sale in like a month. We got to get this. Let's just bang it out. Yeah. Let's just make the Steam page, whatever the minimum viable that you can do on that page, they just put it in there and go. I know you got to get stuff out. Totally understand that. But what I really wanted to bring forward was like, that is a critical point. Like, it all comes down to that one moment. Like, even if you do some cool marketing, some indies like do cool tweets and cool things, but it still comes down to that one point, because like that's where the buy button is on Steam. So all that other stuff you do rests on top of that one Steam page. And so hopefully, if I brought anything, is to get indies to start thinking about their Steam page and how their game is represented externally, because Steam is much more important than all this other stuff that's, all these other platforms, because Steam gives you a lot of visibility. So it all comes down to that Steam, that final interaction. And if you don't get that critical moment right, what in the UX field, what do we call it? The moment of truth, you just lost all that you invested in the top. It kind of falls apart at the very end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that people can understand that in a game design perspective. They're like, oh, level 1 was just too hard. Nobody made it past level 1, right? Like, or 1% of the players made it past level 1. And everybody who's a game designer is going to look at that and be like, this is a disaster. This is we have to fix the game, right? But when everybody's bouncing off the Steam page and you sell 1 copy, it's a different kind of disaster, but I feel like people are not realizing that it's fundamentally a similar type of problem, right? It was too difficult to understand what you were making. It was too difficult to understand why they would like it, and they bounced off it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been kind of like dancing around, and that I think you alluded to there, or that I've been thinking about, is that you hear people kind of using this like, don't do this with your indie game, right? Which I think is is sound as a basic premise. But one of the things that talking to a few people, and I saw the great interview that you did with Jonas Taroller that's also on YouTube, and we can put that in the description for people to find. But Jonas has kind of said at different moments, and I think he said it there, that actually like making a good game and a good Steam page kind of, I don't want to say it's enough, but it's could be a viable strategy. Just that Steam as a raw source of traffic in and of itself, you could build a game and launch it and just do that. I don't know what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, here's to kind of flip it a little bit. My thought is, and when we say a good game, I think a lot of people go, "Oh yeah, obviously I'm making a good game." I'm obviously,
yeah.
But there's a lot in good game. Like I honestly think 90% of your success is dependent on your game, and there's two parts to that. It's the good game, and by good game I mean looks beautiful. Like it has to look good. No program art. It has to look like amazing. Like when somebody sees a screenshot, they got to say, "I want that."
Yeah,
that's it. It has to have no bugs. It has to kind of like have fun gameplay. That's, I would say, 45%. The other 45% is it has to be in style. And what I mean by in style is every platform has slightly different genre expectations. And when I say in style, is there are certain games that are like really popular right now. Like on Steam, it's city builders, survival games, open world kind of survival games, farming sims. All those are kind of like in style right now. So if you make a really good game that's perfect, but it's like, and I hate to say it, I make these pixel art platformers, it's just not going to sell.
This is
like,
funny.
And it doesn't
platformers
matter.
are the genre that are just getting such a kicking right now from everybody. They don't make a platformer is like a total meme right now in this kind of conversation.
I mean, I made a pixel art platformer.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And they just, you can't force it. You just can't. Like, this is hard for a lot of people to understand. They think, well, I made a good game. It's like, it has to be a good game that's in the current style of, you know, what's popular. And I kind of liken it to like, what if you were a perfect tailor? Like you were the best tailor. Like you made like best fabrics. You knew how to get the best fabrics. Your stitching was immaculate. Like nobody stitches like you.
Yeah.
And you know how to like perfectly crease the clothing and everything is perfect. Your machines are top notch, like your sewing machine and everything. Designed, you learned your design from the top schools. You're the best tailor that's ever been. And then you make bell bottoms, and nobody buys bell bottoms anymore. Yeah. It's like then they're like, I'm the best tailor. Why is nobody buying my clothes? It's like, well, you're making bell bottoms. Like nobody really buys bell bottoms anymore. And that's the mentality you have to have, and that's where it kind of comes back to what you're talking about with Steam. Is like, yeah, if you get those two right, really good game, right genre, and you just know how to kind of play Steam, you at least know the basics of the algorithm on Steam. You don't have to go crazy into it. I think you can do pretty well.
Yeah,
you can do pretty well, and that's, I think, that what I was talking with Jonas about. And those, but that first part, everybody's like, oh, no, learn the algorithm. I'll learn the algorithm. No, that first part is you got to learn what's the genres that are popular right now and that Steam likes, and then you also have to make a fun game that is beautiful. And I don't want to just say like it has to like shockingly beautiful. And I don't mean just good graphics, I mean like stylistic graphics, because there's some simple, not representational graphics. They can be like arbitrary colors and, you know, like kind of weird looking, but it just has to, like, when you see it, you're like, oh my god, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's
what Steam requires.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that, I agree 100%, and I think that there's a, as you say, with the tailoring analogy, which I think is a good one, people believe that good execution and quality are differentiators when in fact, you know, what you make, how you make it is kind of honestly, I hate to say it, but it's kind of the price of entry, right? It's like being able to make something well is just expected. Nobody's going to be like, wow, no bugs. Like, wow, runs at a reasonable frame rate. Like, I mean, people do appreciate those things, and they would definitely ding you if it doesn't, right? But nobody is going to be like, I saw this game, and it just had really solid frame rate, and, you know, like, great software architecture, like, yeah. You know. But as developers, right, that we're really interested in that, and we really want to put a lot of focus and energy into that because we believe, And in our craft, that is important and valuable, right? But it is not, it's how, not what, right? And what you make is probably, massively more important than how well you make it. The thing that's hard about that is, I think in the game development business, we talk a lot about once you have your idea, how to go and do it well, right? Like you should do a lot of play testing and you should do this. And if you're using this game engine, you should do it this way. And here are the tools and blah, 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 blah. But how to pick viable ideas is something that I think only a handful of folks are talking about. And I think you're one of the people who's talking about it, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it with you. And then also Ryan Clark from Crypto the Necrodancer or from Brace Yourself Games, rest in peace to the Shark Tank, which was an amazing,
I love that show, yeah.
amazing show exploring these ideas. And I think he really hammered this a lot, right? Of talking about genre viability and saying, and this kind of focus on what, right? What you're making. I don't know if there's how can we get better at this? Is it market research? Is it understanding like the styles and the trends, as you say?
This is the way it's going to work. And there's nothing we can tell people. So like whenever somebody's like, I want to make my first game, you can't talk to them about this stuff because it's their first game. So what they're going to do, this is what everybody does on their first game. They make their dream game, whatever they think it is, and it takes them a long time, longer than they expect. And then they launch it, and it's usually like a Nintendo game from like 20 years ago, and it's one of those genres that's just not in style anymore. I pretty much did exactly this.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh man, this did not sell because it's like an older game style, and it's not, like I said, it's not the style of what people on Steam want to buy. And so then they're like, well, game dev's too hard, and then they move on and become an accountant or something. They go back to being, I don't know what else they do, plumbers or something.
Yeah.
And so, but a certain percentage of people will say, oh, okay, I did that. I still like this. How do I do this better? And it's those people that kind of take that second leap. And I find overall, your second, your third, your fourth, you got to do a lot of games.
Yeah.
It's the people that like really love this stuff so much that even if they had that setback, they're like, okay, that's going into my data. Like, okay, I learned that. I learned what not to do.
Yeah.
Now let me fix this and do this better the next time. Those are the people that really get this. And they're like, okay, so the first time didn't work. What was it? Look. And what you basically have to do is really study the market. And it's not too terribly hard. What you got to do is, there's sites, and I actually gave a talk about this, and I'll send you a link. It's basically how to see what the genre viability is. And it's not hard. I don't have the site off the top of my head. Basically, it lists, they just scrape Steam, and they see how many reviews a game gets. Yeah. And the more reviews you get, the higher your sales are. There's just this perfect correlation between the two. It's not important what the correlation is. Just know that if somebody gets like 100 reviews versus somebody gets 1,000 reviews, the game that got 1,000 reviews sold better than the game that got 100 reviews.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated. We don't have to figure out the numbers. We just have to figure out how many reviews. Yeah. But anyway, if you look at that, you can see there's certain genres that just bubble up higher. And if you look at the site, you just click any tag on Steam, you click it, and you can see like the range. And it's like the bell curve. Remember like in school, there were like a lot of kids got C's and D's, a lot of kids got B's, and then very few kids got A's. So it was like a few F's, a few A's, and then a lot of people got B's and C's. Yeah. And that's what you're kind of looking for. And so you're like, okay, this genre, what do the B and C games look like? Because the games that get an A, and when I say an A, I mean they sell a lot, those are rare. That's like luck. The B's and C's are like what you can kind of expect. And if you look enough at each genre, you'll look, and this is, you just got to take off your game design hat and put on your like pure numbers. Like just look at the numbers and say like, okay, if I do this genre, the B's and C's are this high. If I do this genre, the B's and C's are really tiny. So I should probably stick to these. Now, I'm not saying don't design by committee where you're like, oh, well, this game that has a character with purple hair did better than a game that with a character that had red hair, so I should have a character with purple hair. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like, look at all your ideas and what interests you, and then line up all your ideas, and then just kind of figure out, oh, a game like this one that I have an idea for earns typically like 50,000. A game that this idea that I came up with earns 100,000. Oh, I should do this one. So, because anytime you're getting to start a new project, you're always thinking like, which one should I do? Should I do this one or this one? For me, And if you're making an art game, this is different. If you just have a vision that you want to make, but you got to go in assuming I'm not going to make any money with that.
Yeah.
Be honest with yourself. But if you've kind of done the analysis where you look at this site or any games that are in that genre, you'll kind of get a sense like, oh, this is the type of game that Steam wants. This game doesn't. And the thing is, like, the reason I like these sites better than just kind of like watching Steam is a lot. If you subscribe on Twitter and you watch Twitter a lot, or you see what's popular, what the press writes about, the press writes about certain types of games. There are tons of games that just quietly make thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you've never heard of these games. Never. Like, nobody writes about them, nobody tweets about them. They're just kind of minding their own business, just like cranking in money. And so when you go to these sites that scrape the data, you get past all the noise of Twitter, past all the press noise, and you just find these games like, and people come to me, I study Steam a lot, and I consult for people who come to me and they're like, yeah, I got this kind of popular game, and I look at it and it's like, you just made $600,000 last year off this game that I've never heard of in a genre I didn't even knew existed. And they're like, is that normal? And I'm like, no, you are so above average. Do you even realize what you just did? And they're like, oh, I just thought all games made this. And you're like, holy crap. So there are these pockets in Steam that just are amazingly profitable that nobody talks about. And that's why I say don't try and form your decisions of what's popular and not based off of Twitter or what you hear in the press. Because a lot of times the people who are really loud on Twitter and you think their game sold amazingly, when you talk to them over a couple beers, they're like, oh yeah, that game did terribly. And it's like, I heard so much about the game. And they're like, yeah, but nobody bought it.
Yeah.
And then these other games that you've never heard of, in a genre you've never heard of, made hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars. And it's only when you dig into the data that's on Steam, like these sites that scrape the data, do you find these little weird things. You're like, I didn't even know that existed. So that's why I say, look at the data, not what you think is popular.
I think that's a really, really good piece of advice. And that's definitely something that I have, witnessed or observed is there are people who are good at marketing who have a good story for press, right? Like, because the thing is, right, press fundamentally is in the story business. They need to write something. They need to write 800 words about something. And if it's just like, this is another really cool game and it's got fish in it and whatever it is, like, that's not a good article. So they're interested in a good article, right, or a good YouTube video or whatever it is, not necessarily just covering something that's just fun for somebody to play for hours and hours and hours. And so it does skew towards, I mean, I don't want to pick on anybody, but like, there were definitely a whole bunch of indie narrative games a couple of years ago, right, that were very critically acclaimed and justifiably so, right? Maybe they're culturally important, maybe they're wonderful expressive works of art, right? But what you saw in the press and then the commercial reality was like this. And some of them were quite open about like, hey, yeah, this kind of bombed for us. And they had that pretty, I'm sure, pretty sour experience of, wow, reviews are coming in, people love this, like, and then it just didn't convert, right? So I think that is a really, really important lesson is look at what's actually selling. This is a weird segue, but like talking about pockets of things selling on Steam that people aren't aware of. Jason Rohrer gave this talk, like Life After the Indiepocalypse, and he was putting up these games, examples of games you've never heard of that were doing well, right? And specifically had great retention numbers. And as a father of a 10 and 12-year-old boys who play games on Steam, a lot of what he was putting up were the games that my kids are playing that no indie game developer is talking about, no press, like things like Feed and Grow Fish was the example that he put up. I was like, I know about Feed and Grow Fish. I bought 2 copies of it for my kids. But he's like, look at this game, Feed and Grow Fish. No one has ever heard of this, But I think it's a great example, right, of how we can get into this indie game bubble, this press bubble, this game developer bubble, right? There's certain games that game developers just love and want to talk about, right? And it's not Feed and Grow Fish, right? 10 and 12-year-olds who buy games, they're really into it. And then obviously there's YouTube, which is how they found out about it, But I feel like, yeah, there's definitely like, we talk about media bubbles in politics, but we definitely have that in the world of games as well.
Oh, definitely. kind of looking outside that bubble, or I just take any emotion out of it and just look at the numbers to kind of find stuff. If I could ask, I've always wondered this. This is my next study, but I don't know how to do this without being really creepy.
Yeah.
How, one, do your kids hear about games, and then how do they buy them? Like, how do they get to you?
Yeah,
You know?
really good question. Yeah, I mean, basically, I would say YouTube is really important. They watch a lot of the big YouTubers, not so much Twitch. Twitch, a little, and certain things they like on Twitch, but YouTube is really, really important, and that is where a lot of game discovery is happening, right? So things like Human Fall Flat, Feed and Grow Fish, Stick Fight, Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, all those kind of hilarity generator games, right? Kind of situation generator games that do great on YouTube, and then my kids see it on YouTube and they see somebody having fun and then they want to get it. And how do they get it? They come to me and they say, they bother me, right? And they say, I want to buy this, and then I'm like, I have to look at it, and then I go look at it, and I'm like, well, and then I look at the price, and I'm like, and then usually I buy it, and I gift it to them on Steam. I buy and gift it. I do not give them Steam, or once in a while they'll get a Steam gift card, but that's very rare because that goes straight into Counter-Strike and internet gambling,
Yeah.
Gambling.
That's
for
exactly
kids.
what I was wondering. Like, how does that go?
Yeah, no, the giving kids, or at least my kids, giving them Steam gift cards, all they want to do is gamble on Counter-Strike loot crates, and this is a whole hot topic in our household, and it's basically not allowed. So yeah, if they want to buy some like cool indie game or whatever, I'm like, oh yeah, great, yeah, I'll buy that for you. I mean, they have their little pocket money like account in the Bank of Dad, and if they've got some money in the Bank of Dad, they can get it, and I don't think it's like horrible,
Yeah. And do they have their own Steam accounts?
Yes.
Is it like each one of you have a different Steam account, or they're not on Dad's account?
Yeah, no. We have 3 Steam accounts, and then we do Steam library sharing. My library, which is the biggest library, is shared with them. So if they want to play something from my library while I'm not playing, they can. And that's actually interesting because, what's funny, actually, they play a ton of stuff in my backlog that I have never played or played for 5 minutes. I buy these like weird indie games that I'm like, oh, that looked cool. That's a weird idea. And I buy it and I'll play it for 10 minutes and then I get distracted. And then I'll come back 2 years later and my son is playing it. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, oh, this is you. You have this. And I'm like, oh, oh, cool. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting, but that definitely gives me a view outside the bubble of what's going on. I mean, YouTube, right? It goes to YouTube, and I think it goes to talking about types of one of the themes that I've been talking about on this show. I just had Dan Cook on, and we were talking about this, the retention games, right? And the way that retention is playing on Steam now, and that games which I understand the idea of freemium games wanting to retain players because they have a direct, you stick around and then you monetize, or multiplayer games, it's kind of more obvious. But then also just premium one-time purchase games, how important that kind of long-time retention is actually playing out to be for a lot of games and for a lot of indie games as well.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things where it's a lot of people who are first time into this, and when I say a game has to be in style, it's that replayability.
Yeah.
They're not, a lot of the people who are designing games right now grew up playing Super Nintendo to PlayStation. That's just kind of the generation that's okay, I'm 30 or 40, this is my shot to make a game. So you see a lot of indie games coming from those type of people.
Yeah.
And so those games are, there's a saying in music, you always make the music that you listened to when you were 14 years old.
Totally.
And so it's the same thing with games where it's a lot of first-time developers are probably in their 30s to 40s. And so the games they were playing when they were 14 is Super Nintendo through PlayStation, just inching into Xbox. And so those games that were hot back then were single player, story-based, especially console-based, where it was just you play through this thing and then it ends. And now on PC, it's a totally different world. nowadays it's like, I want to be able to just play with this world, and there's no structure as much, and it's a lot of like systems and stuff. And I think that's one of the first lessons that a lot of first-time indies need to make when you're making your game, is that is what people want on Steam. That's what's in style right now, are these kind of, like you said, totally accurate battle simulator, those kind of survival games where it's like, I can just do anything, and the systems just work on all this. That's the rich type of game that a player on Steam wants.
Yeah. And I think that the generational point is a really good and interesting one. It's also interesting. I mean, I'm 42, and I've been in the game business for 7 years. So I'm right in your bracket there, got in when I was 35-ish. And it's interesting, that is an older demographic than I would have guessed. I would have said 20s to 30s maybe, or something. I probably would have been off by 10 years. I mean, being a data-driven guy, where do you get that, or how do you kind of come to that?
I don't know. I mean, that one is like, for me, it's just the people who like message me, and then it could be just the way I talk and stuff. Is like, a lot of people who message me are like right in that thing. I'm like, oh, they're like, I always ask people when they first say like, oh man, I read your stuff. I was like, okay, well, what are you working on? What do you do? That was one of my first questions anytime somebody says something to me.
Yeah.
And they're always like, oh yeah, well, I'm like, I'm an accountant. I've always wanted to make a game, so I'm making my game. And it's like, it's kind of this midlife crisis thing where people don't buy cars anymore. They just make an indie game. Like, that's why I say a lot of it is the 30s and 40s. Now, I mean, a lot of people can be 20, but they don't talk to me. They're just like, heads down, they just make a game in their 20s.
Right.
But, so I guess I'm not seeing that as much, but I do think a lot of the people that are kind of actually researching this stuff are probably in the older demographic.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And that actually, I think, that makes a lot of sense, that the really young folks are just kind of in go for it mode, and they're not doing a lot of research about marketing. They don't give a fuck about marketing, right? They're just like, we're just going to go and do this. And they also are not, I think once you get into our age bracket, you're starting to be more risk averse, or at least more kind of measured in you're having your midlife crisis, but you want to try to do it in a little bit of a strategic way.
Well, here's the other thing that I think is, a lot of people, they came in, maybe they started their game industry in their 20s, they graduated from a college or something. They worked at an industry like AAA, AA, something around there. They worked for 7 to 10 years when people typically drop out of the industry, and they're like, people aren't just making the games that I want to make. I want to make this game, and that's 30s. They're 30 to 40 when they make that realization, like, man, they're just not making the type of game that the market really wants. And then they come out and they're like, they're just not making enough pixel platformers. That's what my boss wouldn't let me do that. I'm going to do it. Right. And then they're like, oh, that's why my boss didn't want me to do it.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. And I think that's actually there's a bunch of kind of interlocking systems there, but the people churning out of the, commercial game production industry, I think we definitely see that, right? If you do 10 years in a big game company, many of them, the way that it is not rewarding to long-term careers, right? And so then you come out after 10 years, you've got these skills, right? You've learned a lot, and you've been in the industry. And obviously, if you've been in the industry that long, you're probably someone who cares about video games as a kind of cultural artifact. So then you're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go for it and do my thing. Yeah, that's very, very interesting. I find these kind of things, I find the generational thing interesting because right now we're seeing this, and I think it's a fashion among developers, and I don't know if it's going to be a fashion among players, of kind of PlayStation 1 graphics, right? Like I love it because PlayStation 1. I have the nostalgia, right? And I like the hazy, pixelated, low triangle look. It's nostalgic, right? And is that just fun to make, or is that going to go to market and people are going to buy it? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's also, well, okay, so here's another data point, was like, I taught a college class last year to people who are like juniors to seniors. And at the start of the class, I was like, well, what's your first memory of a video game? And a lot of the kids were like, oh, I remember sitting in my dad's lap while he was playing Xbox, like original Xbox. And I was like, that's your foundational memory. And so now these kids who are there, like, they're graduating from college, That's their foundation, like Xbox, PlayStation 1, 2-ish era, like right in there. So it's just tracking, you know. And plus, the technology is getting. It's also a technical thing. I mean, that's why a lot of people do pixel art and the slow poly is to make those type of graphics. You don't have the budget to do it, so you have to kind of like it's like shooting a documentary in black and white. It's just cheaper to make a documentary in black and white, so you're covering your costs. So I think it's a combination of genre taste and also just practical cost. I think that's also kind of like why there's a lot of Quake kind of looking games, you know, where it's like because it's a combination of that's my foundational moment because it's like 20 years ago when that kind of came out, 25 years ago. 25-year-olds are getting into the market, and then also it's just easier to make those type of games now with Unity. And that kind of stuff. So
totally. No. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that's also an important one, right? Just the production practicalities of what would have been very difficult and expensive, something that you would have needed a commercial team to do 20 years ago, now is something that really 1-2 people could do in their bedroom in a way that can kind of reach a certain standard of whether it's pixel art or low poly 3D or something like that. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I wanted to zigzag a little bit here. One of the things that you published an article recently saying, the gist of it being, it's never too early to make your Steam page. You need to make a Steam page right now, right? Which I feel personally attacked by. And I guess I'll defend myself a little bit. I mean, how early is too early to make a Steam page? To kind of
so sometimes when I have to write an article. Okay, I heard this thing from somebody who was talking about animation in video games. I'm going to take it. And they said when you do an animation in video games, you can't just like do a guy running. He has to like run like this.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like on the screen, it's like this big. So like you have to animate him like he's doing this. Yeah. When I write an article, nobody ever listens to my articles. So I have to write the article like that. I have to do this for writing an article. Do it now. Because people are like, okay, I'll do it now. Yeah. And do it now means 6 months. Right. So I always calibrate something to like do it way over. So here's the thing the reason I write that is people always, I don't know, I'm always like, go do it. And they're like, but it's not perfect yet. It's not absolutely perfect. And like, do it now. Yeah. Well, I just have to do with one polishing pass and then I'll do it. And it's like, it never comes. It actually never comes. Yeah. And that's the hard thing with indies is they always just one more cycle. And it's perfect, but it's wrong. Right. And that's why I'm saying you got to get it up because basically the rule is, what I say is if you are talking about your game publicly, you need a Steam page. Yeah. Like, because, and a lot of indies that I've seen that I've consulted for, they'll post a GIF of what they're working on and it goes viral and they have nothing to capture it. Yeah. And that's the hard part is nobody remembers anything. Just like you were talking about how you had indie games in your backlog that you didn't even know and your kids were playing and you're like, what is that? And they're like, you bought it. Yeah. Nobody remembers anything. Yeah. So you have to, when you're doing your marketing, okay, now this gets to the marketing, you always have to capture, you have to have something that's a good container if something happens. So there's this thing called the funnel. I'll go real quick. Funnel is you have a bunch of stuff that's super, it's like a firework. It's really loud and it's bombastic, but it doesn't retain people. It's just like a firework, it's a flash, and then people forget about it. But you have to have something to catch people and then hold them in a vessel so that later you can go back and say, now my game's ready. Now, that vessel can be different things, but Steam is a very good vessel for that. Like a Steam wishlist is a very good vessel. And so if you do anything public, if you shoot up a firework, which is basically a tweet GIF of your game, somebody could see that and be like, oh, let's go find out. And if you have nothing to catch them, you might as well not have even fired the firework. Yeah. Because it was a tree in a forest. It just didn't go anywhere. So that's why I say, if you're going to talk about your game, if you're going to post a GIF, do it, have a Steam page ready for it so that you can catch what any fallout. Because I've seen lots of games, lots of people, and they're like, oh, I had this viral GIF. And I was like, did you have a Steam page? And they're like, no. And I was like, oh man, that is like, you just like opened a toilet, threw money in, and then closed it and flushed it. Like, because here's the thing is like, this is what I like to think about. I've done advertising for games. Yeah. Like paid ads. It kind of comes down to every wish list is worth $1. It costs $1 to get a wish list. So if you go viral somewhere, that's like $4,000, $5,000, $1,000 that you just lost. And that's why I say, get a Steam page. That's why I say do it now.
No.
Because you need something to capture those people.
I think that's really, really good advice. And I think that, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, just to kind of go into self-serving mode for a second, you know, what we've been doing on the game that we're working on is we've been doing, it's, you know, currently working title, untitled cute space game. And we've been doing devlogs and stuff, but it's all, we've been doing devlogs literally from day one. So it's really prototype. It's been really prototype for a long time and going through all the misery and suffering of early stages. My plan is basically to, when we announce the title and the original artwork that we're kind of secretly working on now. So there's a kind of a public stream of content that's going, that is building some attention, and it's YouTube is the channel, right? But when we launch the social media accounts, it'll be social media accounts, Steam page, artwork, and kind of like official marketing start. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and you can do that kind of stuff. Like, you can have a mailing list. Like, a mailing list, I say, is a good vessel. Discord is kind of a good vessel. I'm not totally sure about YouTube. Like, I don't have specific data about that one. But that, you just need to know, if you're going to do that, you just need to know what your bottom of the funnel vessel is to hold people who are like, ooh, that looks cool, I want to hear more.
Yeah.
Because you have to have something, because Twitter will not do that.
Right.
You have to, or whatever you're doing publicly, you have to have something to capture them in. And so if you're not going to do a Steam page, then you have to have a mailing list or possibly like a YouTube or something.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, which gives me something to think about, because I don't think that YouTube is that. I think makes me think we should start a mailing list, because I feel like doing a Steam page without the title and without the art, it feels too early to me.
Yeah. And that's okay. And I have to be louder because a lot of people, okay, so a couple other factors are, I was really writing to an unknown audience. So I said stuff like, if you're John Romero, back to Doom or something, making a game, okay, don't launch your Steam page unless you've got the press organized. You know, you're at a different level. If you've made games, you're known in the industry, you have a different thing. But if you're known in the industry, why are you reading my stuff? It's like, so.
I mean, honestly,
like,
I think it's really applicable anyway. Even John Romero has had failed Kickstarters, and you know, it's not being known is not a guarantee that it's going to hit. You know.
Well, the reason I'm talking about it that way is like, okay, you can be strategic about it. Like, you can go out to like PC Gamer and say, hey, PC Gamer, I haven't launched a Steam page yet, but do you want exclusive access to this? Right. I don't know why PC Gamer's on the telephone, but anyway, let's go with it. Like, PC Gamer, I'm going to do an announce. Do you want exclusive access? And PC Gamer's like, yeah, we'll put you on the front page of PCGamer.com or whatever. Yeah. That's why I mean, like, if you're industry known, you can start shuffling, like, you can get your forces together. Yeah. And then you can strategically say, we're going to launch a Steam page and we're going to do this and that. But if this is your first game and nobody knows you, it doesn't matter. You call up PC Gamer and they're like, get the fuck off the phone. Why are you calling me? How do you even know my number? And so that's why I kind of say it that way, is like, when you have that industry experience, you can start organizing those things. Kind of like what you're doing. You're like, okay, we're going to create the social. We're going to contact this guy that I used to work with. Right. And then we're going to do our mounting. So that's kind of take that in
No. I think that's a really good advice. And obviously this is the thing, right? It's always highly contextual. And as you say, it's like when you're speaking to the broad audience, it is hard to have all those layers of nuance in there. But I think fundamentally even just talking through it here, I realize that we probably have a leaky bucket and that we could be capturing people better right now. We don't have a mailing list, and I've been like meaning to set it up, you know, and haven't done it. And that I should be doing that as a call to action on all the stuff that we're doing now until we get the Steam page, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not, you have to have that, because why else are you sharing it? Yeah. You know, and it's like, because you also have to be prepared. It's almost like preparing for a tornado or a flood. Like, okay, if we go viral, what happens? What do we tell them to do? And if you're like, oh my God, this is on the front page of like Reddit. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? You don't want to do that. You want to just be like, so that if you do get to the front page of Reddit, you're like, mailing list, here it is. Just sign up. We'll tell you more later. Yeah. You know, that's the minimum. You just need something that is the hardcore, you own it. Yeah, you can do anything you want with it. And so Steam page and I think mailing list are the two best.
It's interesting that you put a little question mark over Discord. I've definitely had a number of people. I've had a number of people say Discord is the place to build community. Discord is your bucket, right? That is really I think Mike Rose from No More Robots has kind of really banged that drum, and a few other people, and even other indies I've talked to is like, yes, we built a Discord. We sent everybody there. That was the thing. I hear you putting a little question mark over it.
Yeah. So here's what I like and don't like about Discord. Okay, here's the good thing is it is popular. So it's like everybody in the target market is going to want to, like they're on Discord. Like on Steam, everybody on Steam has a Discord. Like a Discord account, they've got it installed, they're ready to go. And the other thing I like about Discord, it's like one button. They don't have to like type in anything. So if you put a link and say, join our Discord, they click it, and then it pops up and it says, do you want to join it? And then you click. So it's like 2 clicks, and they've opted into your thing. Here's a couple things that I don't like about Discord. One, and this is why I say your bucket has to be something you own. Yeah. You do not own Discord. Yeah. You do not own that thing. They have no business model. Like their business model kind of sucks. Yeah. Like they have explicitly said, we're not doing ads at all, which sounds, you're like, yeah, no ads. That means they're not making money. They have no money. And like, they're not making money. That's why they're trying to sell themselves. Yeah. And you're like, they released some financials. I was kind of like trying to dig into it. And they're like, we made $150 million. Like that is nothing. The $150 million is nothing. So they don't really make money. Yeah. And so they're looking to sell. And who knows who they're going to sell to? What if they sell to like some either company or country that is kind of questionable? And all of a sudden, let's say you have been building up, you got like thousands of people to join your Discord, and all of a sudden something sleazy happens and Discord just like blows up. Everybody's like, no, we are leaving Discord. They leave Discord, or Discord changes things so you have to pay. Let's say they sell to some cheesy company that makes you pay for everyone that you do.
I mean, we've seen this on not all social networks, but this is definitely a pattern, right? They get the people in and then they start charging for access to your audience that you've built. Yeah,
exactly. That's why you got to build something that you own, and you own a mailing list. Yeah. The other thing I don't like about Discord, especially too far out, and somebody else brought this up, is like when you're in the early stages, you don't have a lot going on. The only people that are there are like diehards, and they haven't played your game yet.
This is exactly it's like, we're not playing it together. What are they doing on Discord? Like what, they haven't played it. They don't, maybe they're like really excited about the characters or something, but like, right? It's weird to me.
Yeah. And so what they've got, they're going to come in, and in the early stages, you got like 10 people on your Discord or something. Yeah. And then you come in, and then they're just like, it's a ghost town here. And they're like, because the value of Discord, it's a network effect. Yeah, if it's exactly. Like a pop and the Discord's really going, they're like, yeah. And they have stuff to talk about, like, oh, how do you get to this character or that? Right, but they don't have any context to talk about, and there's nobody there. So they're going to come in, and they're like, what? Okay. And
I know this. I used to be a party promoter and DJ. You know what I mean? If you have an empty party and then somebody comes in, they see an empty party and they leave. It's like 12:30 at night and there's 10 people on the dance floor. They're like, oh, no. You need them to stay, but they see the empty party and they're like, oh, no, we're out of here. Like, this is dead. Yeah.
And even if they don't leave your server, like Discord, every time you join a new one, you get bumped down the list. Yeah. I'm looking at my Discord right over here, and it's so many dots, and I can't remember the logos. Like some of the logos, like one time somebody was like, can you join us in your Discord client? And I was like, I don't remember what your logo looks like, and you can't get the name. And I was like, I know I'm in your Discord. He's like, I can see you in my Discord. And I was like, but I can't figure out how to get there.
I mean, honestly, this is weird. This makes me feel like a boomer, but like I have these kind of experiences with Discord where they're just, I mean, it's funny, you as like a former UX guy, like some of the UX and UI decisions, I'm just like, I find it really makes me feel old to say this, but like I find it confusing, and I'm like I use Slack for work. No problem there. Totally understand where I am and what, but like something about Discord is this like some kind of paradigm shift that's happened and just left me behind. So I'm kind of, it's a little bit reassuring to hear your, thoughts about it and some level of ambivalence about it, because it kind of mirrors some of how I feel about it. But there's a bunch of very respected people who have been kind of saying, no, Discord, that's the thing. You've got to build up your Discord, and that's where you should be capturing people. I mean, because to go back to exactly what you said, one, we have the more modern pattern of the Facebooks and so on of the world charging for reach to the network that you built. But then there is also the MySpace pattern, right? That it's hot. You spend a lot of time building up your MySpace page. You put your MySpace address on everything, and then it dies, and all of that kind of social capital that you built up is just down the toilet, right? So that is, I definitely agree. And it also, it's funny, it makes me think like, somehow I think this never happened on YouTube, but here I am like spending tons of time building up our platform on YouTube.
And here's the thing that with Discord that like, and this is the thing that I try and do with my indie, I've built my thing on is like, stop looking at what's popular. Even though I told you like, look at what's popular on Steam.
Yeah.
Look at why people are doing things. A lot of indie advice is like, well, it's popular. Like, oh, Discord is popular. Like that's it. And it's like, well, think about why. Like I'm not against chasing things that are popular, but like understand the why.
Yeah.
Like why are you actually doing it? And a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, well I saw everybody else do a pixel platformer, so that means they must be popular. But it's like, no, did you look at the numbers? Like I just want people to know the why of doing it, as opposed to just like, oh well, this is the hot new thing. It's like sometimes it's hot and new because they're paying a lot of money to people to get them excited about something, and it's not actually good or popular. It's just like you're being bamboozled by marketing dollars, and you think it's a good company, but it's actually like just marketing. So that's why I'm trying to teach people like know the why behind it. And so, well, here's the final thing on Discord, and I don't know if it's the final, but my thought on it is like I have 2 Discords that I run, one for my game business and then one for my marketing. I never set up either one. The fans like ripped down my door and said, you need to start a Discord for this. For my games, like I have one that's a speedrunner friendly game. So a bunch of speedrunners came together. My game kind of popped off a little bit and a bunch of speedrunners found it and they made a Discord to discuss my game for me. And I found it out. I was like, you guys made a Discord for my game. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, no. I'm owning this Discord. I was like, I just created one for you. Come on over. Yeah. And because I didn't want them to like, I didn't know what they were going to do with it. So that indicates, so that's what they call intent, customer intent. Like they definitely want a Discord. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll create it for you.
Right.
So I'm not against Discord. And then I talk a lot about marketing, and so many people from my marketing just found my game Discord and started talking about marketing, which is like, they were like ruining the mood. It was like, I was trying to create a gamer mood and they just like talking CPIs and all this stuff. And I was like, guys, out of here. And I created a marketing Discord. I was like, I'm trying to set a mood here, guys, for the gamers, and you guys are just like wrecking this. And so amazing. Then I had to create a second Discord just for marketing. And I said, guys, so a second time I had to be like, get out of here, get so like
get off of
that's where I'm like, I can't deny it. Like people want Discord. But here's the thing is I think the Discord comes after whatever you're doing is out there. So for example, my game was already released and people were playing it, and then they came to the Discord.
That makes total sense to me. They've got something to talk about. There is a community. You're not trying to create a community prematurely. Right. I think that's the marketing community. There were people who wanted to talk about marketing together. They're showing up in the wrong place, and it's like, okay, let's make a place for you. But I think that's the signal that you should be watching for, right? More than like, oh, I heard I need to make a Discord. I'm going to make one and then tell people to get in there, even though there's nothing really happening.
And here's another thing, and this is. Everybody should look at context. And to the Mike Rose, like I respect Mike Rose, and I think he's
he's great. What he's doing is great.
I think his stuff is great.
Yeah.
But I think what indies, first to the industry, have to understand when they look at Mike Rose's advice, which is he's had a couple really popular games. He's a publisher with multiple games and industry contacts.
Yeah.
And so when he says make a Discord, he's coming from the aspect of I've got like 3 hit games. Yeah. I'm launching a 4th one, so he's got an audience that he can just move to a new Discord. Whereas nobody hears about you. You've never had a game. Yeah. There's nothing to play. So he can do that because he's got a Discord where people can discuss stuff, and then he can just say like, oh, let's move over to this Discord. So you have to look at the context. And a lot of times indies will see like, oh, Blizzard is doing this thing. We should do that too. And I was like, they're a publicly traded company. Like you are not at their level. So a lot of indies think that any marketing advice applies to them when it's like you have to look at the context of where you are. And that's the same thing where I was talking about with like, should you make a Steam page? Like if you're a know nothing, you play by different rules than if you're John Romero.
Yeah.
So just realize that you've got different rules depending on where you are in your marketing experience, like in your game making experience.
Yeah. No, I think that is really, really, there's a bunch of levels to that are really valuable. And I think one, right, even we're talking about indies, right? But there's the one guy in his bedroom indie, and then there's Mike Rose, who worked in the industry, was a journalist, has a huge network, and then became, then worked for a publisher and then became a publisher, right? He's playing a different game, even though he's indie, right? And the games that he's publishing maybe are made by smaller teams and are indie aesthetic, right? That is a different level. And so tactically, different things are going to make sense, and strategically, different things are going to make sense for him. I think that's a very valuable perspective, because I think this is and maybe this is a good to highlight. And it's like, I feel like talking about marketing to indie game developers, it's funny. I notice you strike this kind of apologetic tone. You're like, I know marketing is dumb and gross, but you have to do it. Yeah. I find that really funny. I'm like, you fucking idiots. You need to do some fucking marketing or you're going to be broke and sad. I have a less like charitable perspective on it. But like, I think that the thing that I do care about, and that ties back to that context, is we don't want to be telling people to do things that are unsustainable, that they can't support with the resources that they have, and that are not going to deliver a return for them in their context, right? If you're telling every first-time indie developer to go out there and make a Discord, I mean, honestly, making and growing a Discord, especially from zero, is a lot of work and effort, and your effort probably is better put somewhere else if you're at that starting from zero stage. And I feel like that is maybe one of the better services we can do for people, is be like, look, if you're at this stage, don't do that. Your work is probably better put into more scalable types of marketing, whether that's Twitter or Reddit or Imgur or YouTube or whatever, but things where you don't have to sit there and do it all day if there's only one of you,
Yep. I try and teach. That's why I don't just try and say like, this is popular. My blog posts are never, this is popular. This is popular, this is popular. It's like, okay, this is popular because it works like this. And I try and explain the theory behind it. That's why I always talk about the marketing funnel.
Yeah.
Because I want people to understand how the marketing funnel works, because it's a fundamental of marketing. Yeah. It's like gravity. You just have to learn how the marketing funnel works, because then some new thing after Discord is going to pop up, and then you can say like, this is a good top of the funnel. Oh no, this is actually mid funnel because it has this and this aspect, so that you can evaluate and the theory behind it. And it's not just like, because that's what's frustrating. I find a lot of indies find it frustrating. They're like, well, why? If you don't understand the fundamentals, you're like, you used to tell me to do this. Yeah. Now you tell me to do this. What, are you just changing your mind? It's like, no, because there's things that the way the platforms work or the way the market works, and you have to just kind of understand the underpinning of it, not just like do this, do this, do this. Yeah. And that's what I try and do in everything I write, so that they have that concept of it.
No, I think that's it's like the division between strategy and tactics, right? If you can teach people, hey, the strategy is to have a funnel where you have the top of the funnel is wide, light touch, very scalable, right? And then you're having increasing levels of engagement as you move people down, and eventually hopefully to, and honestly in, indie game development, that purchase, people might think the bottom of the funnel is the purchase. The purchase in a successful game is probably the middle, right? It's like you get people to buy, and then you want them to retain and stay in the community and make YouTube videos or talk to other players or be on the forums or whatever it is. Obviously purchase is important, but in terms of that kind of, there's actually a guy who, you might be interested in this, if we're getting into marketing arcana, but there's a guy who has a model which he kind of puts in opposition to the funnel, which is the orbit model, which he's a guy who does developer relations, which is, some of the work that I used to do and still do, and saying that, as opposed to a kind of a one-way journey, right, that it's more like people are kind of moving, into closer and moving in and out through kind of closer and closer orbits. and he's actually open sourced the model as a concept, which is also an interesting thing to do. It's I'll put a link for folks, but I can share it with you. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and the basic thing you have to understand, like every new consultant always tries to make some variation of the funnel.
Yeah.
Some people, I've even seen a funnel that turns into an hourglass, which is what you were talking about.
Right.
Your buyers then recommend the game, so they call it the hourglass. All you have to understand is there's a lot of times at the top, there's marketing things that you can do that are just like so loud, but they don't connect with people, but they at least get them in the door. And then, like you said, higher and higher touch where they know you more and more and more and more and more. And then, like, as they come down, like, it gets more and more intense with you and them. Yeah. And that's all you got. Like, that is the fundamental. Every other model associated with it is variations on that, where it's like,
totally.
Oh, and then they come to me, and then they share it with them, and the people, like, all it comes down to, and I think this, and it sounds easy for you and I, but a lot of first-time indies don't get that. And then they're like, wait, do I use Twitter or Discord? And it's like, no, you use both, because Twitter is good at top, Discord's good at middle. And they're like, what? I thought you said you were just contradicting yourself. And it's like, no, you just have to figure out what's loud and low touch and like, huge megaphone versus the thing that's like an intimate conversation. And that's all it comes down to is some stuff is loud, some stuff is intimate. You have to do both.
Yeah.
That's the funnel basically.
Yeah.
Like orbits or hourglasses.
Totally.
You look. If you Google the funnel, you'll see all types of like
shapes,
things that are like going around.
Yeah. Slides and totally. No, I think that's a great point, and I think it's really a kind of a hierarchy of engagement, right? It's like saying, are you very engaged, or are you just there's so many different framings on it. I think that this is pure curiosity, but it's something that I noticed that, and feel free to talk as little or as much as you want about this, but you mention, the consulting work that you do, because I'm obviously a marketing person and a business person, and I see you publishing a lot of great content, putting up things like your free How to Make a Steam Page class, which is a great resource and is there totally free. What is your kind of business model for this work that you do? Are you monetizing it through consulting?
Yeah, I do a lot of right now, and it's evolving.
Yeah.
So I've done this for almost 2 years. I'm coming up on 2 years. And I kind of treat it like grad school, where it's like, okay, I'm just going to learn. And you only learn when you teach. And so I was like, the first 2 years, I'm just in, out. It's like, I'm going to learn as much, write as much. And then the consulting kind of comes in on this. So it's like, as people hire me individually, so I help publishers, solo indies, bigger teams of indies who aren't, self-publishing, but they're a bigger team. Yeah. And I consult with them. So it's one-on-one. And then I've also added where it's just like, I call it the roadmap, where it's like, there are people that, they can't afford me for hours and hours. Yeah. So we just come in, we do a quick hit where it's like, okay, I can help people a lot with just a quick hit, where it's like, we're doing all this stuff and we don't know where it's making it. It's like, I can look in 10 seconds and be like, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. And we can get it out. So it's like, it's an hour. I write you up a plan and then we just debrief. The whole thing is about 3 hours of your time to do all this stuff. And then you've got a plan to go. No, it's up to you to execute it. You to do it. But I just tell you what I would do. So there's that. And so those, and then I also do teaching for like, I've taught classes at universities. I've taught internationally now, because we're all stuck inside. Like I've taught remotely for like in Sweden and Montreal. So I'll do these teaching things. And then I also do speaking gigs to get paid for that. And then that's kind of the business model. And there'll be more coming, but it's just sort of slow, like learn, figure out what's working, zero in on the actual things, and then kind of like help others. And then also kind of like learn, repeat, where it's like, oh, we tried this thing and it didn't work. Okay, let's try this other thing. That's kind of the stage I'm in right now before I can really kind of scale up and do even more than that.
That's super cool. No, it makes a lot of sense to me. And I love the point that you make about teaching being a great way to learn, right? This is, as somebody who also teaches and makes content, this is just so much my experience that I might have a kind of an idea in my head, but until I have to repeat it, and then somebody might challenge me on it, and be like, well, what about if you do it backwards? And I'm like, wait, wait a minute, So that has been a massive accelerant for my own learning and a kind of a hardening of the knowledge that I do have, a kind of pressure testing of what I do know. So I think that's really useful and really a good thing for other people to be aware of, right? That it's not just that you, and also that I love what you said of, it's going in one ear and kind of, it's like going in the ear and coming out the mouth almost simultaneously. You don't have to do 20 years of research to be able to share a valuable insight with people, right? You can kind of just go learn something and then, put your spin on it and repeat it, and people will get value out of that.
I tell the indies this all the time. Like, if you were first time indie and you released an itch game, I would read your blog. Yeah. I could learn from you. Like, how are the itch numbers doing? What was the conversion rate? How many people organically did you see? I want to know that stuff. So even if you're like, we did a game jam and then I released it, I spent a month polishing and then I published on itch, I would read your blog and I would link to it.
Amazing.
Do it. Yeah. So even if you are the smallest indie, and that's what I first discovered, because I was doing this, I started writing this stuff on Gama Sutra when I had released 1.5 games, and I was just publishing the most minuscule data set. Yeah. I did this one thing, and then I was getting people far higher up in the industry were like, oh man, I was reading your blog about this, and I was like, I made one really unsuccessful game. Yeah. And why are you reading me? And they're like, oh, this was a great point. We tried this and it worked. And I was like, it worked? You would be amazed at how small the industry is.
Yes.
And how much we need to know. Because it changes, and we need as many little sensors out there in the field to figure out what's working. And even if you made a little tiny thing, but you tried TikTok or whatever, and you're like, oh, we got 500 views because of this TikTok. And you're like, whoa, just doing that got 500 views, even though it wasn't a lot. I bet if we scaled it up, we could do this. And so that's why no matter what your level is, you should publish a blog on Gama Sutra, which is the industry standard.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend, don't be afraid. Don't think, well, I'm just a little indie. Share it. And don't just tweet about it. It's got to be something permanent, on Gama Sutra. Tweet about it, but then link to your Gama Sutra. So, because it has to have that staying power on a blog. So, I know it sounds old, blogs, but do it. Blogs live long past a tweet.
Yeah, no, and they're better for search and all that kind of. It'll be discovered and stuff. I think that's a really great point. And I think I know we've been going, so we can kind of start to come in for a landing here. I think one of the things that I observe, and I love your image of, that we need more sensors out in the field to understand what's going on. Something that I see as a trend that I find very commendable is folks like you, folks like Ryan Clark, who we mentioned, Jake Burkett, this kind of trend of people publishing data, right? Gathering and publishing data. I know, you kind of do things where you say, hey, I'm working on an article, people give me your numbers. So there is a layer of anonymity. So that, because I can understand, right, people might feel quite vulnerable being like, I worked for 2 years on my game and it sold 100 copies, which is happening a lot, right? And that's brutal, and I get why you might not be so psyched to publish that. But I think that this ecosystem of people sharing data and then analyzing it is a wonderful thing that I see developing, and I think that it's one of the things that we can do as indies that other people can't do, right? That we own our data, and we don't have VP of data saying, no, you can't do that, So I think it's a super cool trend that I observe, and I definitely see you kind of being one of the leaders in that space, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, now I appreciate everybody who shares their data. I know it's hard, and every time I see data that's for a failed game, I think, thank God this person shared this stuff. It's I know psychologically it has to be hard to share that stuff. Yeah. And they're willing to do it, which is awesome. And that's why I always respect it. I never ever say this campaign sucked. Look what this idiot did. It's always you're learning, and sometimes you gotta fail to do it. I've made failed games. You just gotta. It's not. I try and make sure it's never personal. Anytime I make a critique of somebody's marketing, it's it didn't work because of this thing, and I think a slight adjustment, and it's totally understandable why they did this, but it just needs an adjustment. And that's what I try and bring is it's not really failing. It's just, you're just trying to zero in on what is actually working. And that's what I don't think a lot of people who are new to this understand, that marketing is like that. So what you do, when I do email, I start with a concept. I'm like, okay, this is the subject line. And then we were only send out the email to a few thousand people. And they're like, that didn't work. Let's try this one. No, that didn't work. And then you eventually like start narrowing down into what actually works. It's like the hurricanes, when the hurricanes come in and they like the cone of, what they call the cone of uncertainty. That's how marketing works. So you always start with a bunch of failed attempts because you're just zeroing in on what works. And so I hope a lot of indies try one thing and they're like, that failed. And you're like, well, you just haven't narrowed down on what works. And that's the way advertising works, especially on like Facebook ads and stuff. You just start with a broad set of creative and you're like, oh, nobody clicked on that image. Let's try this one. Oh, everybody clicked on that one. Oh, let's put it in color. Let's put it in black and white. Let's make it red. Oh, there it is. It's a green image. You got to make it a green image. Yeah. And that's
totally.
That's how it works.
Totally. No, I think that's a great point. And I think that, it keeps kind of coming back to people not having a large enough. Well, first of all, I mean, there's multiple things there, but one is just that for the people who feel embarrassed about sharing their failures or the moment where they got kind of punched in the face by the market, please know that those of us who are out here in the trenches, in the arena with you, will always respect your vulnerability and your failure, right? I never will look at anybody like that and be like, oh, what an idiot, what a loser, look at him, he didn't sell, right? Because if you've done this, you know how hard and scary and uncertain and how much luck and crazy stuff is mixed up in it, right? And so I think that's something that anybody, and there are toxic voices out there who will say crazy stuff, but just know that's not coming from the people who really do this. The people who really do this know that we're like trying to light a candle in a hurricane, and like it's just a goddamn miracle if it catches fire,
Yeah, and I think the important thing that I always do, because I've had failed games, and what I say is like, this experiment failed because of this, and that's the thing that we all respect on the industry side, is to say like, yeah, it failed because I thought that if I could do a quick pixel art game that the market would adjust. But if you just know why you didn't succeed, that goes very far to it. And if you have a hypothesis, say, my hypothesis why this failed is because of this. Right. That's where we go like, that's really a smart insight. Even though your game failed, the fact that you have that internal insight, even if your insight is wrong, it still indicates that you know what you're doing. Yeah. And so that's why I say always kind of have a theory, and it doesn't have to be a correct one, as to why that failed. Yeah. And it's never, the reason is never Indiepocalypse. It's never like, well, and it failed because Indiepocalypse.
It's just I just got hit by the Indiepocalypse and it wasn't my fault. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is it wasn't my fault. Well, awesome. I think that is a great way to bring this into a landing. Thank you so much for taking the time to do it. It's been super, super fun. For folks who want to follow up with you, we've mentioned many different things throughout the show, but maybe we'll just list them here. Where should they go to find you?
Okay, so every week I publish a blog at howtomarketagame.com, and then just go howtomarketagame.com/free. That's how you sign up, because you get a free book when you sign up. So howtomarketagame.com/free. And then I have another free class on how to make a Steam page, and that's howtomarketasteampage.com. And that's just, you just sign up for the class, and that's a free class on making a Steam page. My Twitter is @AdventureMTN. That's my Twitter handle. So that's, I tweet. I don't tweet that much on there. When I do, I just like hit it hard. But I only tweet like good marketing stuff. So that's how you find me.
Awesome. Yeah, and I can definitely vouch for the fact that you should sign up for Chris's email list, because the emails are packed with goodies and interesting stuff as well. So as a consumer of that, I can recommend it. Awesome, Chris. Well, thank you so much for doing this, and look forward to talking again soon.
Yeah. Stay in touch, everybody.
All right.
See you soon.
Thanks. Bye.